most virulent forms of cancer.
Yeah, and it's very painful.
It's
too.
very painful. Yeah, you have to take a lot of drugs. A lot of drugs. I got a cousin of mine who's suffering from myeloma, which is a blood cancer, and he's had it for almost 3 years. And they told him when he was diagnosed originally, you got a year to live maximum. He's lasted 3 years thus far, but he's really got a great attitude, and his wife is just absolutely amazing. She just is there for him. Anything,
That's awesome.
And they have this one, and they have money. They're not hurting financially. So whenever he's feeling well, he loves to play golf. So they take off and go on golf trips.
Oh, okay.
Go to Hawaii or go to
Is he
England.
in remission or is it just?
He's at points in his during the month or during the year where he has enough strength where he can play a little golf.
Wow.
And he doesn't look that bad. He doesn't look like he's lost a lot of weight or anything. So the doctors are hopeful that he may last for a while. He's only 62. So it's tough. Cancer really it's weird. People freak out when you hear the word cancer, but actually heart disease kills more people than cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a bad heart, that's really not good, to say the least. Because every heart disease is different too, but cancer is so difficult to predict,
Well, I've heard that
types.
for the most part everybody has. It's just dormant.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
when it comes out.
That's exactly right.
Because we're all gonna die of something.
Yeah,
One out of one people die.
Sometime, somewhere along the line, you're going to be toe tagged, whether you like it or not.
That's right. And when I wake up and see that, I'm not gonna be very happy.
What? What is this all about? Come on! Sounds like the name of a song. Dut, 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 dut. Uh-oh, we got another one who's... Oh, there we go. There's Joe.
John? Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan, how are you?
Hi, Edward, not known as Ed.
Not known as Ed, that is correct.
I learned that very early. Don't call me Ed. It's Edward.
Well, I tried to be nice about it, but...
That's okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm just, can you hear me okay? I got you on my hands-free car thing.
Yeah, no problem. Sounds good. You're driving and talking to us. Oh,
Wow.
dangerous.
That's it, but I'm going to take my gum out, so...
Where are you driving, by the way?
Well, I have a son, special needs son. We take the Santa Cruz every day from Lafayette.
Nice. That's a nice drive. Must be pretty today.
83 miles. The audible bus. I'm in the middle of the Grapes of Wrath, which is just amazing.
Oh, cool. All right.
All right, well, let's...
We've had John on the show
We
before.
have, yeah.
You know John also. I mean, I know John, but you know him too.
Right, just right here.
Okay.
I came into your studio.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't done our 2-minute segment, so go ahead and just stay with us, and we'll do our 2-minute segment, and we'll bring it back on. So hold on a second. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be fun because we have a guest who was on once before. He joined us. He's joining us again. Now, last time he was in the studio, but this time he said, "No, I'm not coming in the studio. I'm going to do this by phone."
Well, that's okay. Jon Kingdon is a longtime NFL scout, worked with the Oakland Raiders for many, many years, and it'll be fun talking with John because this is the off season for the NFL, but you've got the draft coming up, you've got the mini camps, you've got all these teams that are making moves, and it'd be interesting, especially John having spent so much time with the Raiders. I'd like to get some thoughts from him also about that team because I know he still probably keeps up with the Raiders and of course our Bay Area, the other team, which is the 49ers. So there you
Are
go.
the 49ers still around?
Still around. They're playing them in some
doing
town.
so
They're
well.
playing in some town down in the South Bay. I can't remember the name of it. Santa Cruz, Santa Clara,
Something
Santa Clara.
like that,
Yeah, Santa Clara. That's it.
And unfortunately, they're still not looking good.
No.
And they haven't even started yet.
No.
There's too much turmoil going on.
Dysfunctional franchise.
Yes. Where's Kaepernick going?
I think he's going to stay with the 49ers. I really do.
Wow.
That's just a rash prediction on my part. I have nothing to base it on, but I'm just...
Who knows if Jared
Yeah.
Goff will join them?
Yeah.
Okay, at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question where we're going to give away a vacation.
What's today's theme?
Today's theme is Miscellaneous trivia. I can,
Ah.
if I said it was basketball or baseball, you just know all the answers.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got to surprise you.
Okay.
The
Well, you
element
got
of surprise.
you got me the last time when you said, "What is winning a race hands down?" What kind of sport is that? And I just guessed horse racing.
That's right.
Yeah,
You were correct.
I was correct.
All right. Those vacations are free. Their only request is a $100 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouseresortmarina.com. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are still currently yielding over 8% secured by Bay Area real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Their loan to value is still around 52%.
Wow.
52%, and they're producing 8% returns.
Nice.
Check them out, pacificprivatemoney.com. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Jon Kingdon will join us in the next segment.
Still there, John?
All right, so that's our little interlude.
John, you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
for
good.
thank you for your
Thanks for
patience
waiting.
on that.
Yeah, I was in the, I was out surfing today, John. It was really nice. 10 days out of the last 15 now I've surfed.
I was going to say, what days don't you serve?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
there's a
that's
few.
true.
You know, I had family obligations, and there was rain one day, and you know, can't go every day.
Like
Now, the days
Christmas.
that end in Y.
That's right. The days that end in Y. That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
You ever go out on like Christmas or anything?
Oh, I've gone out on Christmas.
Really?
Yeah, I've surfed on Christmas Day. Yeah,
And do you just tell the family I'll be back, or?
yeah,
do
you know,
bring
they were
with
cool with it. I mean, we did our Christmas morning, and then I went out. It was a beautiful day, and the waves were
you?
good.
My wife would let me do that.
Christmas Day is some of the best surf. Yeah, best time of the year.
She
December.
barely lets me out of the kitchen when.
Jeez, what is
no.
your wife's got you under control.
Yeah,
That's all right.
that's another story.
That's not a
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who's on the phone?
We got a good friend of mine, Jon Kingdon, who was a scout for many, many years with the Oakland Raiders. And John, I know you're most interested in what's going on with the upcoming NFL draft. Even though you're no longer involved as a scout full time, it must be intriguing just to keep up with, you know, some of the top players. And I guess here in the Bay Area, we have the guy that everybody's talking about, the young Jared Goff from the University of California. Is this kid going to be able to come into the NFL, you think, and immediately have an impact? I guess it all depends on the club he goes to, huh?
Yeah, that's certainly a big factor. Obviously, you know, I made it a point to try and watch him, you know, from a scout's perspective. And I really found a tremendous amount of things to like about him. He's got good size. He can get the ball deep. He can throw it on a line, but he can also drop it in. I mean, he's got short touch and long touch. He seems athletic enough, which is becoming more and more important. I think the Peyton Mannings are becoming the dinosaurs. We just, you know, can't avoid the rush like that. And the other thing I really liked about him is when he's under a rush, he does a great job of keeping his eyes downfield to see, you know, when guys come open. I mean, that's crucial. The only question I have, and you know, you'd have to get there and have your coach and sit down with him and stuff. And, you know, he worked in a system that was really a scheme system. And I would, if I was there, I'd have my coaches, the coordinator, the head coach sit down and really work on him, put him on the board, and see how his knowledge is. I wouldn't really expect that to be an issue. So
Yeah,
I don't see any real negatives in his regard.
John, for those that are not, you know, really engrossed in all the football terminology, you mentioned the scheme system. What does that actually mean to the non or casual football fan who might not be familiar with that?
Well, you know, I actually did some work at Cal after I left the Raiders doing scouting reports, and I did it in Denver. I was doing the offense and the defense, and then when Denver left, and then I came in with
Sonny Dykes?
Sonny Dykes. You know, he had no interest in any reports on the defensive guys, and because, you know, basically, I don't care who I'm going against. When I run my offense, I'm going to throw it either the X-man on the right or the Z-man on the left or the tight end, and so there's really not a lot of reading of defenses by the quarterback. Just he knows, okay, when I line up and they run the play, I'm going to look at X, I'm going to look at Y, then I'm going to look at Z, as opposed to, you know, reading what the defense is going to be. He didn't care, and I'm not overly involved with it, but he, you know, it seems to me he wasn't concerned at all about personnel or defenses. Just this is how we're doing it. This is where you look first. This is where you look second. This is where you look third. Whereas you get into the NFL, and you really have to know how to read defense.
It's interesting. I guess that's the whole idea of the scheme. That this is what we're going to do. You know, John, you worked so many years for the Oakland Raiders. You worked very closely with Al Davis. What was it like working and getting to know Al Davis? Because to me, he was one of the most fascinating people in the history of American sports, especially football, and he really did change the way the game was played. How was it being a guy that, you would sit down with him and he would probably grill you and want a lot of information about some of the guys that you were scouting? What was it like working for Al Davis?
He utilized a very Socratic system. Ask you questions and keep asking you questions, and you have to really remember what he asked you, because he asked you the same question in a different form, and if you answered it differently, you say, wait a minute, you answered it this way before.
Sounds like an attorney.
Exactly like an attorney.
Yeah.
So, if you like player A better than player B, and you like player B better than player C, and somehow you say, well, I like player C better than A, wait a minute, you like A better than B and B better than C, how can C be better than A?
That's like asking the question, you hear the attorney who says, okay, you're on the witness stand. He says, have you stopped beating your wife? You go, well, yeah. No. Yeah, no.
You continue, do you still wear women's underwear?
Yeah, same thing, exactly.
But my point about Al Davis was, he was not only such an interesting person in terms of his passion for the game, but he had a lot of quirks, and he had a lot of, there were a lot of things written about him that were, sometimes they were apocryphal, sometimes they were true, sometimes they were exaggerated, but he was kind of a larger than life character. What was it like getting to be in his orbit and getting to know him as well as you did?
He had tremendous retention, and the thing is, he was really, in the end, he was really a coach. He loved football. He watched enormous amounts of football. And not only if we brought players in from college that would meet him, but the pro players would come in, and he would meet with them, and he'd bring up, in the third quarter when you were playing against the Cowboys, and they ran a cover 6 against you, and these guys would come out. Well, how was it? It was unbelievable. He knew more about me than I knew about myself.
Wow.
Now that's, I guess, why they always used to refer to the Raiders as one part CIA and one part, whatever.
SOB?
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a certain element to the Raiders. They did things a certain way, and it kind of created a mystery, and it sort of, they were supposed to be the bad guys with the black hats, but I think that was part of the appeal. A lot of the players enjoyed playing for an owner that didn't do things the way most owners did.
Well, it's also why they sold so many jerseys and hats.
Yeah.
To the public.
But of course, winning solves all that. You guys were winning a lot in the 1970s, and that was a lot of fun to be around, I imagine.
No, it was great. And obviously, things fell off. We were making some decisions that really didn't make a lot of sense. And, it came and caught up to us. And the system really caught up to us in the sense of, like a Jamarcus, there was not a strong feeling for Jamarcus. There was and Lane Kiffin was the coach and absolutely adamantly opposed to it. And as
You're talking about Jamarcus Russell now, the quarterback. Yeah.
And what was it about Jamarcus that Lane Kiffin didn't like so much?
Well, I tell you, the main thing that we had problems with the scouts was our scout Bruce Hemrick had gone in there, and he talked with everybody, from the equipment manager, the teammates, the coaches, the head coach, talked to everybody. And the main issue that we had was that they said they had to assign someone to get him up. So assign someone to make sure he went to class, assign someone that he made sure he came to practice, and and he did it. But suddenly he shows up with $35 million in his pocket, and he lost interest because he got that money. And we made it clear that this could be an issue. But Steve Al, had always had a lot of great success, particularly in the past. With players that were considered problem guys, that almost by dint of will he could make them play. But he was having his physical issues, and he couldn't deal with it directly. And the people he hired to really try and keep up with Jamarcus weren't up for it. And again, I think the financial aspect of it, just lost interest. I think.
See, that's why you always have to have the carrot in front of them. Give them a couple $100,000, which is a lot, and then just kind of let them know. Listen, as you're earning But the problem is players' unions won't like that.
Well, actually, the greatest contribution Jamarcus made to the NFL is after he got this enormous contract, and it kind of fizzled out majorly. The league and the players' union came up with a slotting system for the rookies, where they were not going to make countless amounts of money the way Jamarcus did. Now they'll make a substantial amount, but not enough that they can just kind of take it and run. So,
Yeah,
Interesting. How much would that be?
for his team,
Yeah.
it was probably about a third less than what Jamarcus made the next year.
That's a considerable amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still going to get people to
Yeah.
act a certain way. I tell you what, John, stay with us. We're going to cut to our first commercial break. So again, our theme is just miscellaneous trivia. Okay, keep you in suspenders on this one. Which country besides the U.S. produces the largest number of Major League Baseball players? All right.
Okay.
The first email with the correct answer wins a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort.
Does that mean I win the 2-night stay?
You got to answer the question.
I know I'm going to answer this.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
The first email. This may be a trick question.
No, it's not. It's not a trick question.
It's not. Okay.
It's an easy question. Easy.
Easy squeeze.
Everybody should get this.
Okay, email edward@sportsecon101.com.
Even you.
Even me. That's right. I'm going to answer myself really
Yeah.
quickly so I can win the trip.
Yeah.
Email edward@sportsecon101.com. The answer to that question: what country besides the U.S. produces the largest number of Major League Baseball players? And it is not Greenland, I will tell you. That's the first hint. Stay
What
with
if
us.
there has been a player from Greenland?
Really? Okay, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Is there really?
No, I'm just kidding. I think there was a player from Iceland, though, once.
Yeah, Iceland, I can understand, but.
Was there a pitcher from Greenland? A real good pitcher?
I don't even know if Greenland has a population. Does it even have people living in it?
Yeah, at the very, very bottom.
At the very bottom?
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
still very, very cold. Still.
Very cold place to visit.
Yes, here.
What's that, John?
I make my guess, or should I wait?
We'll wait till we.
We'll let you have a
get
stab
on
at
the
it.
air just a
Yeah,
second. After I ask the question, I'll ask you.
Yeah. Here we go. Edward's doing his magic here. He's putting this,
Yeah, I gotta
this
save the
recently
files.
recorded segment that we did into the files. It's amazing. What he does is he records everything onto a desktop, and then he just sends it to the radio network. Isn't that amazing?
Go from the flash drive to.
Yeah. Boy.
All right. You guys are ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the first commercial break trivia question, this was the question we asked. Which country besides the U.S. produces the largest number of Major League Baseball players?
Well, I know the answer, but I'm going to see if John knows
John, what's the answer to that?
Would it be the Dominican Republic?
this. There you
It
go.
would be. Very good.
Very good. Yeah, a lot of people would never figure the Dominican Republic because it's such a small country, but it is. The kids, the moment they can walk, they're given a baseball glove and a bat.
Yeah, Puerto Rico, too.
Puerto Rico too, but
Yeah,
I think
Dominican
because one of the reasons in the Dominican people are so poor there, they look at getting into baseball as a way of getting out of poverty, and it's working. I mean, it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for
Well,
some.
the thing is with baseball, you got to have a number of players.
Right.
You got to have a field. You got to
Right.
have some.
But
equipment.
you can play with 4 players on a team or even 2 on a team. I mean, when we were kids, we used to play. I don't know if John did this or you did this, but we used to play what we call pitcher's hand,
Yeah.
where the
Oh,
pitcher
yeah.
would be the first baseman. He'd catch any ground ball that was picked up by the infield and throw to the pitcher.
Yep.
If you got to him before the runner got to first, you were out. And usually the pitcher was on the team that was playing
Yep.
that was batting.
Yeah.
So because you only had that many players, we had 2
sometimes pitcher's
infielders.
hand, sometimes pitcher's mound.
There you go.
Defense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the king and his court, they only played with 4 people.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So who do we have on the phone again?
We've got Jon Kingdon, longtime NFL scout who spent many years with the Oakland Raiders. And John, I got to ask you about the Raiders today and what's been going on with them, because unlike the 49ers, who seem to be in the midst of this terrible, dysfunctional kind of behavior in the front office where a lot of people just don't seem to want to come to play for them, that is a totally different thing that's happening in Oakland now. And it's taken a long time for it to turn around, but it looks like this is a team that might be not only a playoff contender, but could possibly win a game or 2 in the postseason. What's your read on the Raiders?
Well, I think the most important thing for a team is to have stability. The Raiders had great stability with John Manziel and Tom Flores, and then it was changing coaches all the time. Then we had John Gruden finally got more stability. So it looks like with Jack Del Rio, they seem to make a real commitment there, and that's going to work. That's number one. And then number two is the quarterback situation. I think, like I said, the guy that's probably the most valuable player in the personnel department for the Raiders is a guy named Ray Farmer, who is the general manager in Cleveland, who drafted Johnny Manziel instead of Derek Carr. And Derek Carr, they haven't had for years. Obviously, it's Carson Palmer if they stay with him. But basically, Derek Carr is the guy that they can grow with. I think it looks like they understand that Carr is really the key to this team because they've just invested enormous amounts of money in the offensive line.
Well, let me ask you, because you mentioned Johnny Manziel, and we are recording this show earlier than the 16th that it's going to air, and who knows what will happen between now and then. What do you think is going to happen with Manziel?
I think it's possible that he could sit out for a while. I mean, it's kind of scary. Not that I particularly follow it. Then you read, he's got all these issues, and there's in the paper, TMZ, now he's partying in Vegas, partying in LA. It's just a scary guy. I think the only way he's going to go to a team is with a flat-out minimum, no bonus. Let's prove to everyone that you can work this. But he's throwing away enormous sums of money by his behavior.
Well, he's taken a page out of the Ryan Leaf playbook.
Yeah, it's true. It's sad too, John, because you think about it. He's so young and talented, and the good thing for him, as you point out, teams there are probably a couple of teams that take a flyer on this guy, just because there's not a lot of great talent at the quarterback position, and very few teams even have an adequate backup. So he'd be at the very worst, a guy you could take a shot at as a backup,
especially with salary caps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that make sense to you?
No, it makes perfect sense. Even after he's been cut by Cleveland, for as much of his behavior off the field, he shows no inclination to walk the straight and narrow, and seems to want to party all the time. And even if he's a backup, he can prove to be a real distraction. Otherwise,
oh, that's a good point.
Party, teammates, that kind of thing. So.
Well, here's the thing: is it may not just be the money issue that the team looks at. They have to give up a spot. And I know there's 60 players, but it's like, do you want to give a sort of a throwaway spot?
Well, what's sad to me, John, is the fact that not only is he throwing away this talent, but apparently his father, who sounds like a decent guy, said, publicly to his son, he goes, "Johnny, you've got to straighten yourself out. You're going to die of alcoholic poisoning eventually." And so something is terribly wrong with this young man, whether he's got an addiction, whether he has a death wish, I don't know, but somebody has got to get a hold of him and straighten him out. And I'm not talking about a coach or a quarterback guru. I'm talking about somebody who can get his life together, because he's really hanging from.
And you got to put him around the people who are decent people.
Well, that's always a tough thing to do, as you know. I mean, you saw that, didn't you, John, with Jamarcus? Jamarcus wasn't a bad kid, but he started hanging out with some of the wrong people, and then of course some of his old buddies from the neighborhood sort of brought him down too. It's always who you hang with, isn't it?
Yeah, bad morals always corrupt good ones, not the other way around.
Yeah. The teams that are strong and successful, I talk about New England, they can get away with guys. When we brought in, for example, Randy Moss, that was the Art Shell year, and that was a very dysfunctional environment. And Randy was unbelievably talented, played well, and he kind of quit on us because the team wasn't doing well. And we eventually got him. I traded him for a fourth to New England, and he was excellent for like 2 or 3 years. And then, then when it became a pain in the neck, I still remember they won a tough game, and Randy Moss, what does he do? He gets the post-game conference. Oh, we got to redo my contract. I'm not happy. We have to get it addressed. And Belichick cut them the next day.
Interesting. Wow.
No nonsense.
Small team. You can put up with these guys because you can get rid of them and they know it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Another guy that we should bring up, and he's not been really a problem off the field. You never hear any problems about this guy off the field. He seems like a decent guy. Not the warmest, cuddliest guy, and the media doesn't really care for him too much because he doesn't give him anything. Colin Kaepernick, who, as we speak, and again, as Edward pointed out, this show is airing a couple of weeks later. So in the interim, he might have been picked up or traded away. But Colin Kaepernick is a guy, to me, John, one of the most fascinating characters because, in a short order, he became one of the best quarterbacks in football, almost guided his team to a Super Bowl, came within just a few yards of doing it. And then suddenly, it was a lot more than just Colin Kaepernick. There was a complete dysfunction and a lot of players leaving the organization through retirement or injuries. But suddenly, this guy's stock went from the top to the bottom almost overnight. I've never seen a player in any sport fall so quickly, so hard. Is Colin Kaepernick a guy that could reclaim his career, do you feel?
Well, he sure hasn't demonstrated too much leadership in that regard. Like I said, he came in and I scouted him at Reno, and he was a very humble person. Everybody loved him. It was all positive. He was a great leader. The only issue I really had at this point was that sidearm motion tended to, balls tended to sail on him, and that more or less bothered me more than anything. But I had him as like a third round guy, and they took him in the second. But he came into just a perfect situation with the right head coach, with a great defense, and again, I think he was kind of humble. And what really bothers me, and this is just from the outside, I remember we went to the ESPY Award, and it's on late at night, and he's sitting there with his dark glasses, and that just bothers me.
Mm-hmm. He's trying to be too cool for school. He always showed up with those beat headphones around his neck while he was getting ready to do the interview with the press conference with the media after games. I always felt like Randy he's giving us his time because his time is valuable. I've got to get back to my music and my whatever. I just kind of sad to me. That's a kind of a recipe for disaster if you're going to isolate yourself from people when you're young. Yet the last thing you need to do is to create a negative impression. You've got to try to work with the media. You got to try to work with your teammates.
Yeah, but everything, the defense is so good, that helps them. And then, boy, suddenly, Kyle Borland retired, the concussion years, the linebacker retired, Anthony Davis is going to take a leave of absence. It just, everything hit.
Yeah, Frank Gore was traded away. Michael Crabtree left. You're right. It was just a complete exodus. Alden Smith. Speaking of Alden Smith, I saw the Raiders re-signed Alden Smith. Another interesting guy because that guy's got a world of talent, but boy, you walk on eggshells when you wonder, is he going to stay out of trouble? That's the big problem.
No, I think that actually be very effective signing because, it'll be like, I don't know if he's out for 10 games, 9 games, whatever it is, but certainly he can prove to be a real spark plug. When everyone's kind of getting into the dog days of the season, when you're kind of tired, you're pushing something, this guy comes in fresh, uninjured, he might be able to provide a real spark in that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no challenge to his talent, that's for sure.
Boy, no question about that.
All right, hey guys, we're going to cut to our second commercial break here. Again, the theme is miscellaneous trivia. All right, we've got a Winter Olympic sport question.
Okay.
All right, this one's interesting. This Winter Olympic event is called the biathlon.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of that?
Oh yeah.
And it comprises of what? 2 events.
Okay.
All right. Really? You know this one?
Easy. That's an easy one.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Wow.
John knows it. Do you know that one, John? Don't give the answer.
Give the answer. Do you know the answer to that?
I think I do.
Okay. Wow. You guys are you guys will impress me.
Yeah.
Okay. The first email with the correct answer wins a free 3-day United States at the Lighthouse Resort. You got to call in before Bruce gives the answer. or email, excuse me.
Yeah.
Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. The Winter Olympics event called the biathlon comprises what 2 events? All right? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We've got our guest, Jon Kingdon, on the line. John, you going to stay with us for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. All right.
I gave you my trivia question last time I was on. I don't remember. It was the last school from the state of Ohio to beat Ohio State in football.
And what school was it?
Where I graduated from, Oberlin College.
Oberlin College. There you go. Wow.
1921.
Wow.
Wait, and so the
1921.
The question,
what was the last team? What was it again? The question was, what was the last team to beat Ohio State? What was it?
Well, it was the last school from the state of Ohio to beat Ohio State.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So not Miami of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio has actually had some pretty good.
They have,
pretty good teams, haven't they? Yeah.
Cincinnati came close one time. I was watching the
That's
game,
right. Yeah.
and they're like on the 10-yard line. If they score, they're going to win. And they missed the guy dropped the ball in the end zone, and I like screamed. And my wife comes running in. What's the matter? I said, Cincinnati almost beat Ohio State.
Wow.
So yeah, so.
Yeah, exactly. It's just everything.
Did you bet our mortgage on it? I said, no.
Because I don't care.
All right.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was a trivia question I thought was hard, but the two gentlemen, one on the studio and one on the phone, said they know the answer to this. The Winter Olympic event called the biathlon comprises what two events?
That's an easy one.
That's
It's
an easy one?
cross-country skiing and shooting.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I think it has some derivations to, going back to say in Norway, where you go out on you go out and try to get your winter meal by shooting a hare or something.
I
You
thought
have
it
your
came out of-
cross-country skis and you.
Yeah, but I thought it came out of like a James Bond movie.
Or maybe it was the guys that were fighting the Nazis, in Finland. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
John, did you know that was the answer?
In fact, that's on movie.
It wasn't a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you know the answer to that question, though?
Yeah, it's cross country.
Yeah, he got it.
Wow.
He got it.
I'm still impressed.
He got it.
Okay.
You just don't give us enough credit. That's
I
the
know.
trouble.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Next-
I've been underestimated by the best and the worst, so it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, the next one, I don't know. The next question might be easy for you guys too.
Okay.
Shoot, this whole week might be an easy one.
Well, I messed up.
Gives you
with one.
confidence.
Yeah. I messed up with one.
Okay, so that's true.
Yeah.
So we have who do we have on the phone?
We have Jon Kingdon, a former NFL scout, on the phone, and John. The thing about the NFL is that no matter how many hits it takes, figuratively or literally, in the media or on the field, it just seems to keep moving at a strong pace. It's the most popular team sport in America. What is the reason, do you think, that the NFL has this undying popularity with the American public, despite all the negativity, the things with the concussion problems and the off-field problems with the athletes, but yet, despite that, it's still the number one team sport to watch on television. Why is that?
Now, it's on a couple of levels. Number one, there's gambling, which I think is a big audience. Number two, I've always thought about this. There's so many levels to this game, and it runs the gamut. I mean, on the one hand, it can be an incredibly graceful, smooth sport. On the other hand, it's unbelievably violent. On the other hand, it's pure aggression, and on the other hand, it's a terribly cerebral sport. I mean, the effort that's put into it, it's just an interesting sport. It runs every type of athlete. You got big people, you got little people, you got slow people, you got fast people, short people. It just kind of runs the gamut of all sorts of emotions, and everything's prepared, and the ball takes a funny bounce.
Yeah, yeah. You talk about the gracefulness. I was immediately thinking of Odell Beckham. His catch that where he turns around backwards and lands.
Pins it up, or what?
That was Tyree.
Oh, that was Tyree. Yeah.
No, but remember a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
the first time he kind of reaches.
And he did that without stickum too.
Yeah, that's what that. Yeah, just
Yeah.
like two, 3 fingers.
I always thought it was. Speaking of stickum, I always thought it was so unfortunate that they banned stickum because Lester Hayes kind of ruined it for everybody. Freddie Biletnikoff put just enough stickum on to be effective, but then Lester went and did it like times 4, and it was just outrageous. And it's so funny. It's so funny. You talk to Lester now about it. He always likes to say that was his little moment, but that was kind of an interesting period of time where your team had the stickum, and really, I guess first it was Freddie and then Lester that really became they loved to use that during the game.
You just wonder, why didn't they wear gloves? I mean, that's the smart thing to do. For
I don't know.
Meeting.
I don't know.
When that came up for league vote, it was 31-1 against Stickum. We were the one team.
Yeah.
Al Davis loves stickum. I mean, Freddie.
No, in fact, we actually didn't want the Stickum.
Really?
It really was a mess. You had to, particularly Dick Romansky, who recently passed away, but he spent hours cleaning the balls and the uniforms to get that Stickum off. And but as I understand it, they said, we're going to vote for it anyway, so we can tell Lester. See, Lester, we voted for it, but everyone else didn't want it.
That's funny.
I think if we were the deciding vote, we'd have voted no.
That's funny. I always remember seeing pictures of Fred Biletnikoff on the sideline having guys hand him chewing gum into his mouth or give him a cigarette, hold the cigarette so he could take a puff of it because he didn't want to put it on his hands because he would never be able to get it off his hands.
Yeah, I think that was usually, I said, Dick Romanski.
Yeah. Yeah, Dick Romanski was quite a character. Now, there's a guy. It's one of the things I love about the Raiders. You had people like Run Jones, the world's oldest water boy, or Dick Romanski, or some real interesting characters behind the scenes. Al Davis loved these guys, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He stood by him, and they were very loyal to him. I think Dick was one of the last of the originals that had come in with Al in '63. I think it was at St. Ambrose College. I think they met in the Army. And then Run, the story, I believe it was Ben Davidson brought him by. And, for the past 10, 15 years, he was living in the building.
Is that right? He lived actually in the Raiders facility?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And Run told me a story, and Run had this funny voice. He kind of talked like this. Hey, Run Jones. And this is the world's oldest ball boy. You'd always see him on the TV with the white hair running out in the shorts, changing the ball. The Run told me, though, that he was actually he had participated and was very successful, apparently, back in the day in roller derby. Did you ever hear that story?
I loved that when I was a kid.
His nickname was Run because he used to run on his skates.
I love it. Well, that must have been a fun time, the '70s, because we haven't even mentioned the late great Kenny Stabler, who was a larger than life figure. I always not only loved him as a player, but he was such a nice guy. He was a little bit off the cuff and kind of crazy, but not somebody who would belittle anybody or give anybody a hard time. He was always in an easygoing manner and just a great competitor. And you look at him physically, he was not an imposing or impressive specimen. But man, when you had a 2-minute drill going, there was no better guy to have out on the field.
One of my favorite years was 1979. And they talked about Kenny was having brain issues, but when Al passed away, they had a memorial at the funeral. Kenny was there and had a memorial luncheon. And I happened to be sitting at a table with Kenny and Raymond Chester and a few other players. Anyway, in 1979, I remember, Bruce, it was the most uncharacteristic Raider football team in history because the team was nothing but speed. We had 2 tight ends, Francis was the only receiver, and we had 2 fullbacks in the backfield, Derek Jensen and Mark Van Eeken. So it might have been the slowest team in all of football. But it set a record. It was the only team in the history of the NFL that had 2 tight ends for one team make the Pro Bowl in that one season. But anyway, the point was I was sitting at that luncheon, and I brought it up to Kenny, and he and Raymond, and they started talking about those games like they played them yesterday.
Yeah, those games did bring back some memories. I, as a kid, went to so many games and covered so many of the games and was lucky enough to cover them. And it's funny, sometimes and this is a true story, sometimes when I'm having a tough time going to sleep at night, you get a little insomnia, I will literally think back and remember and for some reason, I don't know how I have this memory, I can remember every single Raider game I went to from 1966 to 1981. A lot of those I covered before they moved to Los Angeles. I can remember who they played, what the final score was, where the game was played, and I'll go through it in my own mind, and by the time I get to, say, 1976 or 77, I'm starting to fade. Usually I'll fall asleep. But it's kind of funny. I think this is the thing about Raider fans, though, that we forget is, a lot of teams have fans like this, but Raider fans are sort of different, aren't they, John?
Yeah, it was I think it was like, it was like Green Bay. It was like Pittsburgh. That kind of a special environment. And I remember before I came out, I knew a guy who had season tickets, talking to him about it. And, the tickets obviously are a lot more expensive now, but back then it really wasn't cheap. But you send the ticket, you get the bill in March, you grimace, you write the check, and then you forget about it.
Yeah, it's nice, too. You get...
All the time. It was just, when I first got there in '78, and I was Magic last year, it was really a special place to be. 78, 79. And then when the team left, gosh, it just seemed like the Dodgers leaving Brooklyn.
Yeah.
There probably still some people that miss how Liverpool moved the team out of Oakland to LA.
Yeah, they belong in Oakland. They should never leave Oakland, and I hope they never do leave Oakland because there's something intrinsically, it's just right to have the Raiders in Oakland, silver and black. It's been there for so long. It's just part of the the whole thing. And John, before we let you go, I got to ask you your favorite memory with the Raiders. You talked about 1979. Do you have any particular memories of that 1980 team that came out of nowhere, won a wild card with Jim Plunkett, and then won the Super Bowl? I mean, that must have been an incredible run because you guys started off the season, I think, 2-3.
Well, I think the thing about that season is, we made a lot of transactions and they all fit. We had traded Dave Casper and got Kenny King, who had a tremendous season, and we signed Burton Dolan, and we signed Cedric Hartman, Otis McKinney. Plunkett we had signed in '78, and just kind of let him grow and mature. And just every move we made that year really worked well.
Bob Chandler, there's another guy I'm thinking of, the great wide receiver. Yeah.
Tragic loss. Bobby was a tremendous and there's a great Bobby Chandler wrote a wonderful autobiography.
Really?
No, it was wonderful, and it came out years and years ago, obviously long before he died. And he talked about how he went into Al Davis to talk about his contract, and he had a figure in mind that he was going to get. And he said, I went in there, and Al said, "Oh, Bobby, I wish you were with us from the beginning. You'd have been one of the great players in Raider history." And went on and talked about how much he loved him and how it's great. But look, Cliff's been here so long. I can't give you as much as Cliff. I can give you this, and I think it's really a great figure. And in the book, Bobby talks about it. It's the first time I walked out of the negotiation with less than I wanted, but I really felt great.
Al had a way of bringing the players, some good feelings just by giving them the love that most owners would not give players, and I think that counts for a lot even today.
They're the employees.
Yeah. Well, you treat your people well, and as long as you pay them reasonably well, but you treat them well, stand behind them, and are loyal to them, and I think that counts for a lot. Well, you had a lot of good years with the Raiders, John. I imagine all those years that you spent with the Raiders. No regrets about even though you had to be away from your family a lot of times. No regrets about being in a field like pro scouting in the NFL, huh?
Well, I love the scouts, and towards the end, some of those. After the student years and, after Bill, we made some unfortunate choices, with some of the head coaches that, the Art Shell year, that second time around.
That was gruesome, yeah.
You want to make my favorite game of all time, it was the Millennium. And we went to Kansas City, and Gruden was the coach, and I think we were 7-8, and we weren't going to make the playoffs. The Chiefs needed it to win. And we're down 17-0, and it's cold, and it's just a miserable environment, and the place is going crazy. And then suddenly we blocked a punt, and Napoleon Kaufman made great plays, and Tyrone Wheatley made, one of the great runs of all time in Raider history, carrying like 5 guys in the end zone. Kenny Brown made some great plays. Joe Nedney hit the winning field goal, and we knocked the Chiefs out of the playoffs.
I remember that game. That was right on the cusp of the 3 division titles that Rich Gannon won for that team. Great times.
Oh, Rich was with us, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember the newest season, and Greg Binkert, made the cop because Marty Schottenheimer used to always take the shots at us. And the Raiders, they kind of good at the end. And so I remember those guys after we beat them. I was Newski and Beaker talking to us. Well, we knew that the Chiefs were always going to fold at the end under pressure.
John,
just top playoff win I ever had in the Raiders.
There you go,
John. Hey, we unfortunately we have to let you go. We have to cut to a last break here. But thanks again for joining us. Okay.
Edward, it's always a pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Great to have Jon Kingdon aboard. John, as I mentioned, many years with the Oakland Raiders as a pro scout, probably over 30 years. That's the thing I loved about that organization, and still do. A lot of people have been there a long time.
All right, here we go. Last trivia question. What physical object used in a sport must be precisely 2.44 meters high and 7.32 meters wide? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Talking about teams leaving, I'm still upset that the Spiders left Cleveland.
The Spiders?
The Cleveland Spiders with Cy Young.
Oh, you're talking about the Major League team back in the 1890s. Yeah. The Cleveland Spiders.
The Cleveland Spiders.
That's a great name for it. There's only one college team that has the nickname Spiders. That's the University of Richmond.
Virginia?
Yeah, Richmond, Virginia, the Richmond University of Richmond Spiders. I love that name.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's a great name for a team. The Spiders, you can just, catching 8 balls at once, throwing 8 balls at once, tackling 8 people at once. I mean, come on.
They have a little mascot, it's an
Yeah.
ugly spider running around.
Yeah, perfect. It's good stuff. I like it.
It's like the Giants had the
Crazy Crab?
Crazy Crab.
Oh,
yeah,
God, that was crazy. It's interesting. Your little parking lot down there, the B of A, is no longer a little secret. It's packed all the time. And they have signs up there now saying, you can't be in here for more than 30 minutes or we'll tell you. They're not going to tell you.
It costs too much for that. And those tickets are...
Oh, they did put a ticket once on my car. This is about a year and a half ago. I never paid for it.
No, and you never hear anything. It looks real, though.
Yeah.
They do a good job making it look real.
Well, they figure if they can get half the people,
Exactly.
that's,
Well, also in this, just getting through with the fob, it's because there's people, the company down who kicked us out,
right?
they must have 500 employees. I mean, because by 9 o'clock I have to park all the way up. It's just
Wow.
crazy.
Is that
Not on
right?
the roof yet, but
Nobody's on the roof. Well, there's one guy.
yeah. I don't know why they park on the roof there.
Where is how do you get off the roof? Oh,
It just,
yeah,
yeah,
I
so-
see around the corner.
yeah.
Okay,
so it
yeah.
goes-
No, we'll have to have the sound of the. Oh, there you go. It's off.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our third and final trivia question. What physical object used in a sport must be precisely 2.44 meters high and 7.32 meters wide?
Have absolutely no idea. No idea.
So, okay, a meter is what, 39 inches?
Right?
And so, 39 times
2.
2.44, think about that.
So that's about 6.5 feet long.
Okay,
Okay.
high.
High. Okay.
Okay, 7.32 meters wide.
7.2.
So 39 is like 3 feet, it's like 21
Yeah. Still got it. No,
soccer goals.
Soccer goal. There you
I thought
go.
that one you'd get.
Yeah. If you made it in feet, maybe I'd get it.
That's right. Well, that's what
You got me there.
I got you on that one. Okay. Thoughts for the day.
Thoughts for the day.
Thoughts for the day.
Yes.
Now, if I say Jimmy Chitwood, is that
Jimmy Chitwood, that's the famous player that in the movie Hoosiers,
Hoosiers,
scores the star player, who reluctantly joins the team and scores the winning basket in the championship game. Give me the ball, coach. I'll hit it. I'll hit it. I think that's the only line he had. In the
Okay,
entire.
and that's my
Yeah.
thoughts for
Yeah.
the day here. Okay, so Jimmy Chitwood, the hero of the film Hoosiers, only has 4 lines in the entire
That's
movie.
one of them. He said, I hit it.
I-
He doesn't even say, give me the ball. He just goes, I hit it, coach.
Yeah.
And he did.
He did.
Yeah.
You know what? I finally saw that movie for the first time last
Really?
August.
Wow.
Yeah.
What took you so long?
Well, I just one of those things that just hadn't gone around.
Yeah,
Okay, we were talking about sports movies.
great
and so I said,
film.
"Oh, gotta see Hoosiers."
I still think it's the best sports film ever made.
I've heard some people say that.
And Gene Hackman was
enjoyed it. Yeah,
terrific.
he's great.
I think the reason I say that is just because of all the different little lessons you learn from it, and also the way Indiana back in the 1950s was depicted. That really looked like Indiana in the 1950s. I mean, they did a great
They
job
did a good job on that.
recreating that atmosphere.
Yeah, Gene Hackman. He's
Oh,
just always
Just
great.
the best.
All right, and only 10 other quarterbacks in NFL history have thrown half as many touchdowns as Peyton Manning.
Wow,
Isn't that wild?
that's amazing.
I was pretty
How many
surprised by that.
touchdown passes did he throw in his career?
I don't know, 12,000? No, I should have looked that up.
Couple of hundred at
Couple
least.
hundred.
Yeah.
Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more free vacations.
More free vacations.
And free questions.
That's right.
Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
And that's a tape. Right on the beeping money.
You know it.
You know it,
All
baby.
right. So we're not going to see you until